Well, it's shocking but true. Can you believe this? Nearly 3/4 of those classified as millennials in the U.S. say they would vote for a socialist president. But it's not just young people. Nearly half of all Americans think socialism would be good for our country. So could America become the United States of socialism? Take a look.
The global march towards socialism appeared to be over with the Soviet Union's collapse and the end of the Cold War. Now, a wave of socialist ideology has sprung up across the U.S., seemingly out of nowhere. A recent Gallup survey shows 43% of Americans think socialism would be good for the country, and 70% of millennials say they'd vote for a socialist for president. How has this ideology gained such a foothold in the U.S.? Author and filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza says a key aspect of it is what he calls the socialist temptation, the idea that a person should feel entitled to another person's goods because the socialist hammers home the notion that your neighbor has essentially stolen from you. He breaks it all down in a new book, The United States of Socialism.
Well, author and filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza joins us right now. Dinesh, thank you so much for being with us. Before we get into this whole concept of socialism, tell me what happened to you. The president said you were, quote, screwed, and he pardoned you, but why were you in prison?
Well, I was targeted by the Obama administration for exceeding the campaign finance law. I gave $20,000 to a college friend of mine who was running for the Senate. Normally this is something that gets you a fine or a warning. But the Holder Justice Department decided to unleash the full force of the FBI and the federal government against me. So I was locked up overnight for 8 months. In fact, I had mandatory psychiatric counseling as part of my penalty. It was a small preview of the kind of thing that they subsequently did to General Flynn. They're now obviously trying to entrap the president. So the deep state is alive and well, and it's part of the infrastructure of modern socialism. They use the weapons of the police agencies of government against their political opponents.
Well, Dinesh, you pointed out 3 major factors that are involved in what happened to you and what happens to this country. You want to talk about them?
Yes, the socialists they don't just rely on persuasion. If it was up to them, they would not be able to persuade a majority of Americans to support socialism. Socialism has never been in the mainstream of American politics until now. So how do they do it? Well, it's not just the deep state. They also use the propaganda of academia, the propaganda of the media, which includes digital censorship. They try to put people who are not on their side and get them, as they say, deplatformed, thrown off social media, if you will. And finally, Antifa. Look at all these roaming and marauding thugs on the street. This is the paramilitary wing of American socialism. And the reason it's successful is it has powerful supporters, again, in the media, in Hollywood, in the precincts of the governor's office, in certain states, the mayor's office in New York, in Berkeley, in Portland, and so on. So this is a paramilitary force with support in high places.
Well, Dinesh, you look at Bernie Sanders, who was a socialist, and he wasn't even a Democrat. He's running very strong in the Democratic Party, and people were falling over themselves trying to proclaim that they were to the left of Bernie. But what was he wanting to do? He wanted to give free everything. He wanted to give free tuition, and he wanted to take away student loans, and he wanted to make debt affordable and so forth. What do socialists want to do? What's their agenda?
Well, they say that their agenda is to copy the Scandinavians. They say, hey, look, who says that socialism doesn't work? It works in Sweden. It works in Norway. Now, the fact of the matter is that those countries are socialist in wealth distribution, but they are not socialist in wealth creation. The Scandinavian countries have low corporate tax rates. They have no minimum wage. They have no wealth tax. They have no inheritance tax. One of them tried universal basic income and got rid of it. The point I'm trying to make is the Scandinavians don't demonize the rich. They don't kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. They try to create a successful capitalist economy, and then they offer a high level of entitlements, but it also goes with very high rates of taxation that apply not only to the rich, but also to the middle class.
Well, you know, I thought we had pretty much overcome communism, and communism is really another form of socialism. When they finish taking all the money away from people, they've got to enforce the laws that they make, which kills the goose that laid the golden egg. And if the goose isn't producing, then those people who run the government are the privileged elite. So that's true all the way across the board.
Yeah, I think that the Democrats have realized that the explicit socialism of Bernie Sanders, I mean, here's a guy who, went for his honeymoon to Moscow, the Soviet Union. That was obviously his model. That's too much. And that's why the Democrats decided to kind of throw Bernie off the bus and go with sleepy Joe Biden, because Biden represents creeping socialism, or creepy socialism, perhaps. A more subtle form of socialism, so that Biden can sit in his rocking chair and other people can orchestrate what he actually does. He becomes the puppet for the socialist left.
Dinesh, you pointed out also how many of these so-called leaders of the socialist movement are multimillionaires. Who are they?
This is an important point, because first of all, in Scandinavia, you'll never find a politician who goes from 0 to 50 million or $100 million on a government salary. But that happened to the Clintons. That's happened to the Bidens. That happened to Al Gore, even Obama. So in America, socialists are able to use the leverage of their position to accumulate fabulous amounts of wealth. And the most important point is that they do it without inventing anything. They don't start a business. They don't make the iPhone. They don't start Amazon Prime. But nevertheless, they get fabulously wealthy. So socialism is kind of a business in the United States.
Back to you again. What did they find? I mean, you gave $20,000 to some friend, but they lock you in jail. What else do they charge you with?
Well, they charged me with exceeding the campaign finance law, and this is the thing to understand, that the way they get you to make a plea bargain or to plead guilty in these cases is they threaten to put all these bogus additional charges on you. So, for example, they came to me and said, listen, we're going to charge you with mail fraud. And I said, mail fraud? And they go, yeah, because you put your check in the mail. Or we're going to charge you with bank fraud. And I go, bank fraud? And they go, yeah, because you took your money out of your bank account. Now, the point here is that they are using laws that were put into place to fight ISIS and the mafia. And they are turning and using these laws now against ordinary American citizens. So this is the way that when you give the government power, they're going to abuse it for ideological ends.
You also had a pretty rough time. You were talking about Stormy Daniels and how the media played that up. And then you talked about something that Obama had been involved in. Do you want to go into any of that? It's in your book.
Well, I think that with Obama, his anger at me was directed by the fact that I had made the movie in 2012, Obama's America. And I know it upset the president, Obama, because he was denouncing me by name on his website, barackobama.com. And then literally 5 months later, the FBI was banging on my door. So the relevance of Obama here is I think that he is actually the orchestrator of a lot of the stuff going on in America today. Who gave the order to Comey and Brennan and Clapper and Strzok and Page? These people didn't on their own decide to entrap Flynn or go after Trump. That order, I believe, came from Obama. Also, who's responsible for all these rioters on the street? Who started the Alinskyite tactics of, quote, community organizing, which is basically about stirring up resentments, racial resentments, other types of resentments, and trying to create this kind of army of street thugs that we see in countries like Venezuela, but we have not had this in America until now. I think that's another poisonous legacy of the Obama years.
Dinesh, do you think socialism has a chance of gaining ground in America? It will destroy this country as we know it.
It would. It's the opposite of the American dream. The socialists actually have their own dream. It's a socialist dream. But I think we can stop it if we're able to get to the bottom of the deep state, ferret out. I mean, the abuse of these police agencies of government is terrible. We've got to defeat digital censorship, and we've got to take these Antifa thugs off the street. I think Trump recognizes the threat because, remember, Trump isn't just a political sort of soldier against socialism. He's also the embodiment of American capitalism. So while the capitalist is always inventing things and making things and building things, the socialists, as we see all around us now, they're all about burning things and pulling down things and raising things to the ground. That's their specialty.
This book, is it available now? It's called The United States of Socialism, Dinesh D'Souza. It's a pretty powerful book. It's available where books are sold. Dinesh, thank you so much, and thank you for your courage. You were courageous to stand up, and you had to pay the price for it, but you were free, and the president set you free, which I'm delighted to see. Well, thank you for being with us. God bless you.
I appreciate it.